Welcome back to another episode of the podcast Neurotransformations. I'm your host, Brody Miller, and today's guest is Ernesto Parisii. And in today's episode, we talk about Ernesto's recovery from a horrible case of burnout, how our brain deletes and distorts information, how you can rewrite your program, as well as how you can break down mental cages of your own creation, and so much more. Without any further ado, let me welcome Ernesto to the podcast. Ernesto, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Brody. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your story for the listeners. I've heard your story in the past, but it was quite remarkable to me, and how you eventually got into studying the subconscious mind, NLP, and all of the different things that your endeavors. So how did that originally come about?
Well, actually, it was out of after an emergency, out of a burnout of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I experienced a burnout, and it was almost 7 or 8 years ago, when I somehow slowly experienced some fatigue in my body, and this fatigue triggered some anxiety. What if I cannot go to work anymore? Why is that? And by having all this stress during the day, I was just putting it aside. This fatigue. I was sleeping more, but the sleeping quality was bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really recover during the night. So that went on and on and on until someday I was, in a position or in a way that I want to get up out of bed, and I couldn't. I could, of course, but I was just, getting immediately dizziness, and so really, and then some panic started. What happened? What's the issue? So I went to the doctor, and we checked almost everything. Couldn't find, was nothing there. Everything was okay, and it's where I did many checks. Additionally, we took antidepressant, antidepressiva. They helped, for a short period of time. They really helped me out of that dark hole. But obviously, it was not consistent, and it was not in a way that after a few months everything came back much tougher, much stronger, and so I was really kind of a desperate situation, and my doctor could not really tell me a lot. He was, I still have the same doctor like 30 years ago, and 30 years ago I already had some dizziness and some neck pain and so on, and back then my doctor said, you don't have any physical issue, your issue is in here. And I told him, you know what, you are the doctor and you have to fix me. So that was my mindset. Okay. But then when it happens, this 7, 8 years ago, I was really desperate. So I started to look into things which I never did before because I had nothing to lose. So I started to read many books, and I don't know how many tons of books I read, but nothing really helped me. It was just too abstract, too much of. And then I came across another book of a German psychologist,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Berlin, and the title of the book caught my attention. I said, this is how the brain, and the title was How Brain Science Helps to Eliminate Anxiety Forever. And when I saw the word science, it caught my attention. So it must be something behind it. And I bought that book. It was a small one. And then I immediately, while reading it, saw that this is written differently. It was written in different words, much more understandable, pragmatic, and I started to apply what was in there. Applying all these exercises, using it in the moment, but also in the morning, in the evening. And after 12 weeks or so, 3 months roughly, I experienced some changes. in my behavior, but also in my feeling, in my way I approach the day. So that caught my, then made me curious. Say, this is something really weird because nothing worked until now, and this thing seems to change something. So I wrote him an email to the book author. I wrote him an email asking him what's behind this, what is this book about, and then he replied the same day. That was really helpful for me to tell me that basically it's 70% of what he explains are NLP techniques, and 30% is how he applies it during the day. And that was basically my starting point. I say, okay, I heard a lot about NLP, but you always was sold to me that's like communication. And not a communication problem. I had a communication problem with myself. And that's why it is a communication technique, but also how you talk to yourself, what you do with yourself all day. And so I did all these trainings, and that brought me to a complete different perspective, view of the world, understanding on how the mind works, and understanding how the conscious and the subconscious mind work together. Well, they don't really work together, but how they interact. And so that helped me a lot. And from there, I went to different other people, learnings, mainly focusing on how to program ourselves after a certain age, because that's also important, what age you are doing it. But the fact that the brain changes daily, and that's really an important thing. That's a fact, and we know that today. It just depends what you do with it and how you use it to your advantage. And it became my passion. That's why I'm doing it today. I was researching, writing a lot of stuff about it. And so I'm here. And this was the thing which brought me out of that dark space. And it was also fun, to see how some things just begin to shift. It was really cool, really great experience. And so that's why I did it. Yeah.
I'm curious if, looking back now, would you say that you were a workaholic beforehand, or that you were facing burnout, looking back at yourself recovering from that?
I don't think that I was a workaholic. What I mostly was, I was doubtful, not really believing in what I do is good. So that's why you keep doing the same thing over and over again in order to get that confirmation from all the people around that what you're doing is good. And even then, you start questioning it. So it's like a self-sabotaging thing. The more up you go in your career, the more doubtful you get. Can I stand there? Can I deliver? And at the end of the day, people around you say, "What are you talking about?" What are you talking about? But this is the way of self-sabotaging and being constant kind of anxiety of not being good enough. That basically was the essence of everything. Yeah.
Right. I'm not worthy. I'm not.
Yes.
That,
the same. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
the number one question, right? Is like,
exactly.
Am I worthy? Yeah. And so the self-sabotage happens. What can you speak a little bit more about NLP and what are some basic fundamentals of NLP, and how you can use those fundamentals to improve our life?
For me, it was a big discovery when I was the first time, because the first time I get in touch with NLP was after the email of that guy. I bought a CD-ROM, I bought an audiobook, and I did these exercises so it's a kind of way of looking on how the brain works. What is the brain doing with you all the time? And it explains also the way of this survival mechanism, this stress mechanism, and it also talks about how your thinking process, these automated thought patterns, how they emerged over life. What's different between the child brain and the adult brain, how this evolving happens. And that made, I mean, the first time I was in the training, there was so many aha moments that I was saying, yeah, I see myself into this, and the more you have these aha moments, the more you can catch yourself during the day. And when you're getting back into kind of a dark moment, you know that it's basically your mind creating that. And obviously, you're still in a dark moment. You're still feeling bad, but you know it is not the reality. It is not what it's actually outside. It's my perception. It's my mental filter, and so that helped me a lot. Looking for different way or walking differently through the day. Making notes, understanding what I'm thinking, understanding what are the first thoughts I have when I look at the person and I look at the job and look at the task, what's happening, what's going on. And the more you observe yourself, the more you have to laugh at the end and say, well, this is ridiculous what I'm doing here the whole day, but it's so automated. And and I learned a lot on how that works. All these meta, we call it meta programs, the programs which the brain runs all the time, like pain and pleasure. It wants always to get out from pain into pleasure. It does everything. What is a pleasure? What is a pain? And the example of this is when I want to do a task right now. The task is usually the pain if it's challenging. So if you listen to what, or if you take that up what the brain is saying or is producing, we will never move, because it doesn't want to. It doesn't know the outcome of the task. It's painful. You have to invest energy. You have to do whatever it takes, and that's why you begin to hear all these excuses. But if you, for example, find a method or you find a way to add pain to your current status, to make this current status you are right now painful, and then your mind will start looking for a different way to get out of this pain, to move forward. So that's one of my tricks I use most of the time. So I say, what if I don't move? How painful is my current situation if I don't move? In 5 years from now, in 10 years from now. And then you add kind of a pain to the actual situation, and then you see, it begins to run, it begins to look for options and to get out of that painful status. So that was one of my learnings, and also how you can create associations. It's basically what you do all the time. You do very well, these associations on how you create that, how you associate a good feeling to actually a bad experience. So that this bad experience becomes a kind of a wisdom, but not anymore so hurtful. Obviously, you have to do it many times. The brain has to learn that this situation is, but it's possible. I did that with myself. Doing many associations to some painful experience I had in the past, which probably led to that burnout, and it worked. It's like you're going to the gym. If you don't go anymore to the gym, your muscles start to decompose. And same here. If you don't do the training, your brain gym every day, it decomposes.
Yeah, that's so true. And can you speak a little bit about the different lies that our brain makes up? I read one of your posts and you talk about how the brain distorts reality. So can you talk about maybe catastrophizing and cognitive distortions, common ones that people have?
Yes. I mean, I think we can start with everybody has a distortion. and everybody distorts it differently. And that's always related to the belief system we have. So if we have a belief system telling you X, Y, Z, then whatever you perceive from your environment is distorted using that filter X, Y, Z. And it is also, and every information which is actually not, which does not fit into that picture is deleted. If you are in automated mode, if you are just kind of automation, you just delete. If there are facts which are not reflecting your mental belief system, you don't see it. Except you make a step back and say, wait a minute, what exactly is here missing? Do I have all the information? You start questioning the stuff, okay? Then things start to pop up. If you just process your perception without questioning it, you will not find any additional information except the one what your mind wants you to see. And the brain is also a huge master in generalizing stuff. Everybody is there like the same. Whatever I do is always not good enough. This small word which we use in speaking to each other, mentally, self-talks and so on, this is classical generalizing. It's usually not everybody. And it's usually not everything you do is bad or is not good enough, or everything you touch fails. It's not actually never the case. But we think, we talk like this, and so we reaffirm it while talking again. Yes, everybody is against me. Because when you keep repeating that, as I said, you reaffirm it and you program yourself. You make your filter even stronger. That when you go out and you meet with other people, your mind begins to make stories about these people. See how these guys look at you. See how this guy, he talks only with this man and with this woman. He never talks to you. So it's because of And this is a typical way of the brain basically deleting information, distorting information, and generalizing. These are the three main steps. So then at the end, what comes out is an assumption. You usually, most of the time, we assume that we know the facts, we know the reality, but it's actually only our reality, also my reality. That's one of the NLP presupposition is the map is not the territory. So what I have here is not necessarily the reality. If that gets into our mind, we start questioning the stuff.
And our brains are meaning-making machines.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So that begs the question, what are some words, maybe 10 words or so, that it would be smart for us to use less? I think one I think of is like should, could, as you said, always, never. Are there like a list of words that we can become more aware of?
I would say you said already the most important one. Should is always an assumption, or it's always, when you say I should have done this, it should be like that. It's like also kind of filling up your guilt bubble with even more shoulds. Because if you say I should have done it, or I should do this, you implicitly implies that you are guilty because you didn't do it. That's why I should. I should never, always, everybody, everything. This thing is just a generalization of all the things. And if we take a notebook with us during the day and we start, we take an intention that we catch ourselves, how many times we use these words, we will be amazed. And we don't even catch ourselves all the time. It's impossible because we have so many thoughts, so we have so many, our language pattern is so highly automated that it becomes difficult. But the nervous system reacts to words. The brain reacts to words. That has been proved many times. And the more we use these words, the more uncertainty, assumptions we are using it, and the more assumptions we make, the more we find reason of not to do certain things, or to make, to jump to conclusions without knowing all the facts, for example. And there are many these words which you say they should, I have to, I would like to. It's like about everything, everybody, nothing, always. These things makes it, kind of, jumping to a conclusion which is actually not there yet. Yeah. And our mind doesn't want to spend time with things it doesn't know, because if we have to spend time with things it doesn't know, you have to spend energy, he has to spend, and we all know that saving energy is one of the basic programs of the brain. And if we don't develop our awareness that we're doing that every day, we actually probably miss many opportunities, or many we get into stress mode, we get into anxiety, we get into panic for things which are more or less constructed, created in our minds. And you said it very well. I always say that the mind is a kind of a fake news provider. It creates constantly any fake news, which some of them might be, from my point of view, correct, but if you look into the whole context, if you put things into perspective, you mainly see that this is not the case, and then it switches. The moment you have that aha moment, it switches. It goes out of that panic loop, and usually starts to find something else then, because that's how we are programmed. Always look outside what's going on, make sure you are safe, make sure you're safe, make sure you're safe. With all this anxiety which are propagated to us in these days, I mean, our mind adapts to that if we are not consciously of what we consume.
And when it comes to rewriting our program, and I see rewriteyourprogram.com is so definitely check out his awesome website. And I want to know, what are some things that people can do to start to rewrite their program? What are some basic things that we can all do?
Very simple stuff, I would say, is start with less. In this case, is more. And one of the things is we are unfortunately mostly programmed to see what we don't have, or to see the negativity, to see what we don't have, what we can do, can't do, what is not available, what is whatever. Yeah? And if you have 10 experiences during the day, you have 9 positive and you have 1 negative, you will probably remind the negative one. And not the positive one. And it is also to do with how the mind, stores this negativity. We all know that the limbic system is somehow the producer of emotions. The whole stuff, negativity goes a bit of the limbic system, providing this emotional part. And we see that the limbic system is actually active only when we are focusing on negative things. When it's positive, it's really almost not active. And it doesn't care. So the mind doesn't care if you feel good. So that means that it's not going to run any programs. It's not going to create new connections, nothing. So that has to be done from us. So basically, a good thing to start is every day, every evening, for example, write down 3 positive things of the day. It's very simple. And sometimes when you start doing it, you will see that it will be difficult because you are not trained to do that. But the more you do it, the more you will have easy to write down these 3 things, sometimes also 4, sometimes also 5, and you start having more focus also during the day in these positive things. This is because it's like, training the other side. This is one thing. It's very easy to do. And sometimes it's we know, and we can start with simple things which are good. You don't have to be no, I didn't get my billion today, so I'm not happy. I mean, obviously that's difficult to reach from today to tomorrow. But you can say, it was a great day because I had time to get to have a walk, or I had a great lunch. I met these people again. Very simple thing, which make me feel good. And then while you're writing it, recall that feeling. Try to cultivate the good feeling and attach to that while you're doing it. So this is one thing. And the other thing can be that when you wake up in the morning, I know that for some people it's difficult, um, you can do a 5 or 10 minutes just sitting down and take one part of your life and make it as awesome as possible mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And even though while visualizing this stuff, your mind will call you a ridiculous person, it will tell you all the nasty stuff that you should not dream. It's actually what exactly you should do to create a positive connection. And also, if you have some time left, another 5 minutes, write down your daily intention. What is your daily intention? Write that down in the morning. And for example, I want to catch myself whenever I'm generalizing. And write down whenever I say always, never, everybody, this type of things. And because the more you write it down, what your intention is, the more you remember it. Yeah. And
Yes.
the last thing, maybe if it helps, if you have a mobile, and everybody has a mobile today, I guess, you can have some reminders. You can have a reminder, a task reminder popping up your mobile phone, telling you either your intention or maybe a kind of a statement which makes you feel good, and keep repeating that. So basically, I have sometimes. Let's see now what message I have right now, because it's keep changing every hour.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have each day, and every day I'm getting better, and better.
Yes.
That's what I have today here.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that's, it's just kind of brainwashing myself.
Mm-hmm.
There are many things more, but I think, if you never done anything like that, start small and gently increase, because otherwise it's and what is also thing I make my experience with, don't expect too much. If you say that, you read for some blogs, they say that after 60 days you implement a new belief, after the 80 days you implement this. Can be, can also not be. It really depends, and everybody of us is different. Everybody of us has a different pre-programming, a different child brain. So it doesn't have to be a deadline. Just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot of time, and sooner or later it will flip.
I want to know how to apply this to my life, because we all have something in our life where we feel we could improve.
Yeah.
And with me in particular, it's about friendships and trusting other men in my life. It's I seem to have changed my brain when it comes to different aspects, maybe around money, around my health, around my success. But I think one that still seems to block me a lot is I've had friendships in the past where I felt deserted, or a lot of my really good friends have passed away due to drugs and alcohol. So I believe
Right.
I have somewhere that what's the point of getting to bond with another male, because they're just gonna either pass away or they're gonna desert me. So there's something I'm trying to change that program, but it has not been easy for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's if say it passed away. I mean, that's obviously a traumatized experience. You know, I mean that's yeah, if you lose a person you love, you like, he was always around you. I mean, that's really not easy to get around, and accepting that is not easy is the first step. I mean, it's very difficult to say, you know, do this, do this. This is easy, but
Right.
being in that position, it's a complete different story.
Right.
And I say for this, you know, having, you know, breaking a little bit this barrier of because one reason can be that you don't want to be hurt again. That's why you avoid a little bit these bonds. And that's yeah, I mean, that's understandable. On the other hand, it's not every bond is going to hurt you the same way, and not all every male is going, or person, whoever it is going to pass away. In a short, everybody's going to pass away some way, but we will probably. I think that's something which we can, you know, reteach our brain. That's basically it doesn't need to be in the same way. It doesn't need to be, you know, hurting me again. And the way you were hurt, what is exactly behind it? What are the feelings? How can I release these feelings? How can I be with these feelings, accepting them, changing the story behind these feelings, what I'm telling myself about it. I think that's you know, it has been maybe traumatizing, not maybe, it has been traumatizing, and but it also has been so strong that it's the brain, you know, things which are very traumatizing, the brain just imprints it in your subconscious mind. It makes a program. I don't want you to get into that situation ever again. So this is a slow work. See, okay, you know, getting that trust back and preparing your mentally. You can create your own mind movie. I call it this way: really sitting down and seeing yourself meeting these people, other people, giving you a complete different, better time. That will be definitely a thing which I would do. You know, seeing myself, and first of all, being clear. What exactly do I want to do with this relationship? What is my goal? What do I want to experience? What do I want to feel? And then starting to create my mind movie, you know, repeating it in my mind. And the more you do that, the more your mind gets used to that situation. And if you can somehow cultivate that feeling and attach it to that movie, then you take your body with you. You know that this is and I can just tell you the story was not exactly a relationship, but I had, and it was also related a little bit to my burnout. Whenever I went to the office, I was panicked by opening my mailbox. I know, because I was always panicked and see all the complaints and all the people being angry and our services and so on. It was not that many, but each of them was creating a kind of a panic situation with myself, because I was taking all the responsibility. I was projecting everything into me. Yeah, and then of course, you know, I didn't know, you know, how can I change this 5 minutes before I open my mailbox? How can I do it? And the reason that the solution for that, I mean, one of the solutions, now then I had to practice it, obviously, was to reinvent that 5 minutes in my mind. How should I be? How do I want myself to react there? And, you know, creating a kind of a movie, and repeat it. And I was astonishing how that changed this 5 minute, you know. So and this still things I do today. If I have whatever it is a meeting, or I have to meet people I don't like, and so on. Then I prepare my mind like this. I sit down and I close my eyes and I walk through. feel all this stuff, redo it and redo it and redo it until I feel comfortable in here. And then it is sometimes very astonishing to see what the effect is on this.
It really made me think about how we react to certain situations in our life. Because on one hand, if I'm driving in traffic and somebody gives me the middle finger, I can react and, try to chase him off the road or do this or that. But then if I catch myself and I say, well, he's probably having a bad day, it's a completely different outcome when it comes to how we react to people in our lives. So maybe you could talk about how important it is that we remain calm most of the time, or just give people a few tips on how they can remain calm.
Well, I'm actually very temperated. It's not easy. I'm not always calm as I look like, but I was much worse before, and it's definitely not easy for people who have a kind of a certain character, and say I want to be more calm. You have to, again, it's for me, was what helped me there is, first of all, retrain to be grounded. Whenever I am in the moment, grounding. That was meditation. And before all this started, I was actually the one who laughed at meditations. People meditate. I was thinking, this is something for it's nothing for the strong men and so. And today I meditate between 2 or 3 times a day, between 10 and 20 minutes. And that has changed a lot, because then you sit down, and even having nobody there, your mind starts to freaking out. The first time, say, you have to do this, you have to go there, you have to call this guy, you have to read this email, and all these things. And then you see, no, actually no one, but it's really difficult to learn just to watch it. And the moment you learn just to watch it, observe it, when you are in traffic, or it's just a different way of reaction. You look at the person. Okay, I'm not saying that if somebody's doing this, that you always stay calm. Maybe you start freaking out, but then your grounding muscle, I call it a muscle, can take over and say, who cares? Watch it. Just observe it. It doesn't mean that you have to observe everything. Sometimes you have to say also your opinion, but it depends how you do it and how you mention how you respond to it. This is one thing. So meditation is basically doing the outside focus inward. You train to be grounded. Or also, like you said, maybe he's having a bad day, or this is also kind of reteaching the brain on how to respond. It's an intention. I stay calm. It's an intention in the morning. Today, my intention is I'm going to stay calm in traffic. Staying calm all the time is difficult. I guess not even the monks do that. But saying, this is my intention. And if you not doing it, if you are freaking out sometimes, accept it. It's not the end of the world. But the intention stays. I'm staying calm. My intention is to stay calm in traffic today. And keep repeating that. You can also have a sticker in your car. I remember having seen a sticker once where it said, I choose peace instead of this. Just that you see it, that your mind see it, register it, and it goes down. And every time you do that, you reaffirm these connections about staying calm, staying calm, staying calm. With the meditation together, with the intention you do, with the positivity you try, you will note down every day. That creates that new network on the other side, which has to be feed it all the time, because our mind is not feeding the positivity part. It just doesn't care. And that's why I'm saying it's a kind of a not related to time, not related to time frame. If you do it for 60 days, then you are fine. That will probably not work. Yeah. And if it works, then it works for a certain small period of time, and then you start to get back into the old habits.
Mm.
And that's why I'm saying the new habit, the new thing has to be as big as the old one, that your mind starts using it without you have to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then people ask me, I'm 40 years old, and in 30 years I have this pattern. So I have to train another 30 years. What does that mean? Make it just part of your day, and you don't have to think about training it 30 days or 30 years.
Mm.
Just do it. And the more you do it, obviously, the faster you get at it and the better you get at it. But I would not look at time. I would not look at any thing. Say you need to do it for a month or two and then you're fine. I don't believe that. No. Because the way our brain works 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we are not present, it does what it can do best. Taking your programs and run them. And the more you do that, the stronger they get again. It's like really getting into the gym and making sure you train both sides.
Mm-hmm. I recently saw this quote, and it talked about negative thinking, such as doubting, worrying, complaining, are essentially like praying for a life that we really don't even want. So I wanted to know what your perspective on that is, because from my perspective, the brain will concentrate. It doesn't matter if it's negative or positive, but when it concentrates on that, it becomes a repetitive pattern. And so when we complain, we continually worry about the future, it's really like, well, we focus on that more, so it's going to come more into our life. So I just wanted to know what your perspective on that is.
Definitely. I truly believe that whatever it is you keep having in your mind, it will manifest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you create that mental filter which allows you to see these things related to what you have in mind, if it's negative or positive. Unfortunately, most of them are negative, because we are the way we have in the society, the way we are, again, bombarded with all these things. So we keep having that in mind, and that's what we see all the day, because the brain wants to prevent you from having these negative things. It wants you to see them so that you can avoid them. That's why I think it's whatever you have in mind will manifest. If you have in mind, that you will never get a good job, or you will always be whatever, and you are constantly rethinking this, you will see more of them in your life, because that's what actually your mind wants you to avoid. And to avoid it, you have to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
and
a great point. In order
yeah
to avoid it, you have to see it. But
so I think it is somehow related to this. I mean, that's what it's my experience. If I have in mind that I remember when I was looking for a new job back 10 years ago, and I had a coach at that time, and they asked me, so what job do you want? Do you know what is your new job needs to give you? So yes, I know I don't want to work at the weekends.
mm-hmm.
That was my first answer, and say, yeah, that's what you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
But what is what you really want? And then say, oh, that's difficult to answer.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is the way of thinking, that's I don't want this, and then you can bet on it that you end up in a job working at the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like an attraction. Yeah.
Right. It's like a mirror. It's not a mirror. Life is more of well, excuse me, it is more like a mirror that instead of looking out a window. Like life
Mhm.
is more of a mirror than looking out a window.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with you. Yeah. I
And
mean, I think it's the moment you begin to have a picture. That's why some people say vision board also powerful tool. Today, I really believe that because if you have positive pictures wherever and you constantly see them and you constantly feed your mind at these things, it will begin to create the network around these things.
right. And in my own experience, knowing who I don't want to be and also knowing, but like not only focusing on who I do not want to be, it's who do I want to be as well. So putting
Mhm.
that focus there, okay, I don't want to do these things. Okay, that's a good start. But if you continually to only focus on who you do not want to be, you'll just continue to create that person again and again.
I believe that fully because I mean it's also the feeling, the state of your feeling when you say I don't want to work at the weekend. You feel bad. I mean the feeling is not good.
Mm-mm.
But if you see I want to have weekends off, I want to be out of the office at the weekends. I want to do this at the weekends. I want to do this at the week. Just an example. The state, emotional state, it's already different. Same thing, expressed in two different ways. One is negative body, one is more positive part. And so that's why when somebody asks you how should your life be when you could have a choice, a carte blanche, it was at the beginning very difficult for me. I knew a lot what I don't want to do anymore, what I don't want, what I don't expect to happen, and so on. This is what I was very good at that. But to see really, getting out of your mental cage and say this is what I want, because your mind will then immediately start, but this is impossible for you because you are not the guy who's doing it, you are not that person, you don't have the money, you don't have whatever. Maybe yes, now it's the case. But the question is that, what do I need? What do I want? And then the needs and how you get there, the moment this picture becomes so crystal clear, you will find a way.
Mhm. And the fact is that there are very, very few things in life that we have to do or actually need to do. Yes, do we need water? Yes. Do we need sleep? Probably. But
Mhm.
but people say that word so often, I need to do this, I have to do this, and that becomes the box that you put yourself in.
Exactly. That's a great point. Those additional words which you could add to the list, which you asked before, have to, must, these are all related to kind of, forcing yourself or forcing it. I should say it's not out of your conviction. It's not out of your belief. It's out of guilt. I have to. It's also kind of because I haven't done it until now. I have to. That's a kind of of reaffirming your guilt bubble,
Mhm.
and you can easily exchange. I have to that I want. I do it, or I'm going to, or speaking to the kind of existence. But the issue is also here. It is so highly automated our language pattern that have to is so frequently used. It's so rooted. Um, And that comes a little bit of our childhood. I mean, if you go to school, if you go to that, it's always a great time. I'm not saying that's not great, but sometimes you learn the stuff there. Yeah, and then, but in school, they don't learn you how to program your mind for not being in that must modus, more in the want, do modus. love models. I love to do certain things. That will give us much more energy to get out of that cage. Well, you said it very well. That using these words even more and more will build that cage even stronger.
Absolutely.
Well,
when it comes to hypnosis, are you a believer of hypnosis and what that can do?
I mean, I am, yes. No, definitely, because in the hypnosis, first of all, I did it on my own. For me, I cannot tell you when I really realized that actually it worked for me or not. But it is definitely bypassing the stress beta brainwave levels into more calmness. And we know that when we meditate, when we are calm, when we learn in this alpha brainwaves, so that the thing starts to get much faster into our memories. So I truly believe that in when your mind has reached that level, that your watchdogs are sleeping or not at the front, and that you feel in a safe space. When you reach that level, you are in a safe space, and so you can do some changes very deeply. Now, if they immediately work, different thing. But I think it's when you, for example, you do a guided meditation, you do a meditation, and then you speak yourself, your affirmations or your statements, and then you listen to them while you are in a meditative state. That's your voice. That's going to have a profound impact.
And that's a great point, because I listen to a lot of hypnosis, but very rarely do I listen to my own voice. And if I really want to hypnotize or create, everything in life really is hypnosis. Like I'm suggesting something to you in this very moment, everything is a suggestion. But if I actually had my own voice and listened to that, I believe it could create even more powerful outcomes than somebody else's, right?
Yes, and also here, the consistency is key. I think this is not a one-time shot. And there are apparently hypnotherapists or good hypnotherapists which are able to, with psyche, we doing this. I've never experienced that, but I truly believe that you can reprogram a lot of yourself by using this morning routine and the sleep phase in the evening before you go to sleep, or while you falling into sleep, listen to the stuff. I think and I'm also using this, not currently, not because I became a bit lazy, but but it is at the end in the evening when I lay down to bed. I have my Bluetooth loudspeaker. While you're falling asleep, half an hour, this things runs and gets straight into my mind. And by doing this quite consistently, you see yourself do some stuff differently.
Yes.
Don't expect a complete. No, because we have a supercomputer, but the supercomputer is not just loaded with new software, and then it runs differently.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been paying attention to the 7 rules of life. I would love to know what those are.
These are the first one: make peace with yourself and with the past, so it won't disturb your future. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is what other people think of you is none of your business. Number 3 is the only person in charge of change is you. No one else. 4 means don't compare yourself to others. What we discussed before, because comparison is just destroying everything. because you will always find someone who is doing differently,
Mhm.
and you have the program of you always look at things which you don't have, so it fits that. So it will always look for that. Number 5 means time heals almost everything. Give it time. 6, stop overthinking. Very easy, easy said, not always easy to do, but you can be trained also. Stop overthinking. And the last one is smile, because you don't own all the problems of the world.
Mhm.
You know?
Two and four. 2 and 4 are the ones that I find myself
Yeah,
most consistently caught up in.
yeah, yeah.
Well, it's been wonderful to have you on and do this conversation with you. It's always a pleasure learning from you and all
Thank you.
wisdom. And I would love to connect the viewers with you. Where can they find you? And on social media and
Yes,
website?
yes. I have Instagram at Ernesto Parisii, all one word. And my website is basically this one, rewriteyourprogram.com. It's a bit a long name, but I chose it on purpose. So if you remember it, then you know what it means. And there, and also Facebook site, the usual social media channels. And yeah, I'm happy to be here, to have been the opportunity to speak to you, because I find what you do is an amazing work, amazing, great practical tips for people. And it's always great to talk to people who are going also through these things. It's not, we are not the robots, number one. And it's also good not to be robots, because they will never replace humans, even if some people think it will never happen. But no, I was very happy, was very honored. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you, Ernesto. And yeah, I'll second that. None of us, there's no perfection in this life. And, Ernesto and me, we have our own problems, but we've also realized how far we've come as well. And it's so important, that perspective. But
Yeah.
thank you once again. And
Thank you.
take care, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.